interview is continuing. It's now 4:30 p.m.
Craig, let me show you a couple of pictures. I know it's going to be difficult for you, but do you recognize any of these faces as having been faces that you saw in the elevator on any occasion, or in the vicinity on any occasion?
I can't really honestly say that I did.
How about number 6?
I'll see them all. For some reason, the face looks familiar. I don't know why, but it does look familiar.
Craig, can we shut this over just 1 second?
Sure.
Someone want to see me for a minute. Now, number 6, does that look familiar?
Yeah, for some reason, he does look familiar. I can't place it, but he does look familiar.
Does it look familiar for someone who went to college with you?
I really can't say. It's just that, like the face is familiar. I really can't put a finger on it unless I know somebody that looks like that, similar to that.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about any of these pictures? Let me just show you some others.
No.
Doesn't look familiar. Okay. This is a blow-up of the picture I showed you before, right? Does that...
I can't definitely say. The face structure seems familiar. But again, I cannot place it saying, yeah, I rode with him in the elevator, yeah, I saw him here or there.
How about number 2? Okay. Yeah, see that.
Because I guess what you should really do also is the paperwork, also Frank or Steve. He must be, I don't know if you had him on your list.
How about that picture? Does that look familiar at all?
No, I can't say that's one.
Have you ever been in the West?
If I haven't been in the West, not before Berkowitz's capture. I've either been in Florida, or Canada, or, Boston, or Pennsylvania. Otherwise I've never been, farther west than let's say I took a vacation once to, like the Midwest, to like Ohio. My wife and I drove from Florida, like through Kentucky and Ohio, and then across, into Pennsylvania, back to New York.
But none of those pictures look at all familiar to you.
Not that I could say, yeah, I remember seeing that guy in the building.
Craig, this is Detective Bird. Craig Glassman. Were there any bars, clubs, discos, anything that you frequented where you might have run across David, or David may have run across you in the Yonkers area, or anywhere
At
else?
that time, I was pretty well at keeping to myself. It was like I told you, I was busy with school. I was in my second year of school, and we were doing like rotations, like pediatrics, psychiatry.
You're an RN now, right?
Right.
Yeah, you know, what we're trying to do is put together a picture of David Berkowitz, and we're trying to find out, after speaking to everybody that he's known, as much as we can about him. I've never met him. And he picked on you. You lived downstairs from him. Apparently, he did not pick on the people on either side of him. Now, whether they were quieter than you or not, I don't think is really relative. I think it's just the fact that he chose you, and what we're trying to do is figure out whether it's something that occurred in Pine Street that triggered him with regard to you, or whether or not there was some occasion, which you may not even recall, where he may have come across you and developed a dislike for whatever reason it may have been. And that's why I'm asking the questions about your background and the way you've lived and the schools you've attended, in an attempt to determine whether or not there is something in the background that may or may not have contributed to this relationship,
No, because
being only a one-way relationship.
again, many times I tried to think, why? They weren't really that, we were 5 years apart in age. I don't know, just because I was a bachelor, or, because the only thing I think of is either he was jealous of me being with the sheriff's department, or he thought I was spying on him. It's just that, matter of fact, my reasoning behind moving into 6E was because of the view. Because they offered me 2E, which was like on actually the ground floor. And the woman, matter of fact, the agent told me at the time, she said to me, well, you can either have 2E or 6E. She says, but in the summertime, if you want to get a good breeze and a good view, she says the trees have leaves on them, and in 2E you can't see out, and if you're in 6E you can see the Hudson and you get a nice breeze. That was my reasoning behind picking 6E.
Did you ever use a swimming pool?
Believe it or not, I think I've only used it once, and that was it the whole time. Same thing, I never even used the sauna in the building, or even the recreation room, because again, I should, but I haven't.
Did you ever have girls in the apartment that might have upset David? Other than your wife or whatever?
No, I used to bring girls from nursing school. I used to come over for dinner or whatever. And matter of fact, a couple that lived next to me on my floor in 6D were very noisy. Remember, you could hear them in bed. And the bed was against the wall. It would squeak and you could hear it. So when we were sitting on the couch watching TV, one of the girls I had over, she'd start banging on the wall. That type of thing. Other than that, like I said, having the dogs come over, or the dog being over, the TV being loud. Well, according to the investigators in our department, which they had related to me, is they had people who said that Berkowitz supposedly had tailed me at times, which at least I was never aware of. All right.
You never had any incidents where someone tried to run you off the road or anything of that nature?
No, not to my knowledge.
Well,
Not that
if you were driving, you were right.
Not that I can remember, but there's certainly something like that I would definitely remember. The only person that cut me off was Sam Carr. And that was after the whole thing happened.
And have you since it's happened, have you ever spoken to Sam Carr? How about on the occasion when he cut you off unintentionally?
No. Well, he just honked my horn at him. Matter of fact, I was going by the front of his house, and he just pulled out of his driveway, right in front of me, didn't even stop, just kept going. People related, I know the cleaner, the guy that's a cleaner right across the street from him, and he's relating stories to me about Sam Carr being like a very eccentric person. He didn't care what kind of language he used around people. They related an incident where there was a bank robbery just down the street, the North American branch of the bank down there, and Sam Carr, when he heard it was being robbed, he came running out of his house with a gun, waving it around. The cops ended up pulling him aside, and taking it away from him. It was just, he was this, this type of guy. Because I know in the letters, do you have copies of Carr's letters?
Yeah, yeah.
Because Berkowitz in there said, I remember saying that my wife and I,
Right.
which was kind of weird. And I think I'd spoken to you on the phone, in the second letter that I have, you have a copy of. He says the thing about him and the Carr family will all be together in hell.
Right.
He makes that reference in that letter. Which again started me, after I got that letter, then I started to, wonder after it started happening, whether there was an involvement, seeing that, Carr did leave the police department, she didn't accept the job on the police department and stayed with her father.
Well, when I read the letter also, that's why I asked you whether you ever heard anyone up there, male or female, because he did say my wife and I have been disturbed, and we can't sleep.
And to me, it wasn't a threatening letter, it was just an irate person who didn't like the dog barking.
The first two letters were very pleasant.
Right, well, if you notice, like in my first letter, he writes we. And it wasn't until, the last letters when he says I, he's writing in the first person.
And thinking back, no recollection of any giggling female voices or anything. I mean, you said you went past the door of his apartment on one occasion, right?
A couple of times I went up there, and one day I went up to the apartment, and I listened in at the door. It was the summertime. Now, in those apartments, the air conditioner is directly in line with the door. And what it is when you listen to the door, all you're going to get mainly is the noise of the air conditioner, and whatever is, the voice that you want to hear is in the background. And this is why I said, I heard the voice. It didn't sound like a radio, and it didn't sound like a TV. He could have been on the telephone. I don't know. I don't even know whether he had a telephone. I know that. But I don't know whether he was on a telephone.
What was he saying?
Oh, I really couldn't hear. I could just hear a voice, because the air conditioning, that muffled it right out. Because since, I know I've been in the apartment before they turned it back over to the building, and I did see the writings on the wall. As a matter of fact, I have my own pictures. Some of them, this came out blurry, but you probably have your own pictures of it. That was by the front door. That says God Save Us from Craig Glassman.
Mm-hmm.
And this one says Sam Carr, my master.
Yeah, I want to see it.
That one.
Mm-hmm. You really liked it?
Yeah, well, that's why I couldn't believe why I had put that stuff up there. And then the thing about Mr. Williams, I
Yep.
live in the hole and crap. And that was the first time I'd ever been in the inside of the apartment, but this was several months afterwards.
And now there are tenants in there, I gather.
The third person to be in that apartment. The first people that moved in were people that lived on my floor in 6A. They wanted 6A is a small studio, and they moved into Berkowitz. Our studio apartments are a larger studio, so they moved into that. And that was like I said, about 8 months after the whole thing happened, when they turned the apartment back over again. They moved out, and then somebody else moved in who was very noisy. And then they finally moved out, and somebody else was up there now. I think a doctor or somebody was up there.
I thought they were going to turn it into a museum.
No, see, that's the whole thing. Is at first nobody really knew it. They thought they were cute. They changed 35 to 42 Pine Street, which is a joke. And I have the thing that they sent around and said, this was 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and we decided we changed. You can't change the number. It's not going to make it. Which is kind of a joke.
Let me ask you, the rents in that building, are those rents average for the area, or are they high?
At the time when I first moved in, and my first lease, that was a good rent. And I think at that time they were trying to get people to move into the building, because I was paying about, with the indoor parking, it was like $254 a month. And, for that area, it's, good for a size studio that I have. Then, the rent went up to $265 or $295 with the parking.
But that would be average for that area?
pretty much.
Right, because Pine Street area isn't really the best area in, go 2 blocks.
No,
from
it's
here.
like it's the fringe of like the bad area, like you just look down the hill, like where Carr lives, and then just beyond that, and that's whole, run-down area, mainly, it's a predominantly black area.
By the way, have you ever met Joaquin Neto, the fellow whose dog was shot?
On Wicker Street?
Yeah.
No. Matter of fact, I wasn't even, up until one day when because I'd never really driven on Wicker Street and Grove Street, one day when I drove, I didn't realize that Wicker Street was only that one little piece of street that runs down, like at the corner to the end to Warburton. The Grove Street was a street that ran down to Wicker. I thought that whole road was Wicker Street, and I thought the house that Berkowitz shot in was the one over here, which was on Grove, and it wasn't the one, it was, I think, a blue house over here on, like right after the aqueduct, over there.
Did you ever know a name, Joaquin Giancarlo?
No, the name doesn't sound familiar.
So I gather what you're saying, most of the time you went back up.
No, I always used to either drive out Pine Street onto North Broadway. It was very rare,
Back up the hill.
right, that I ever went down the hill towards Warburton Avenue. There was no reason, for me to do that.
Well, other than you said you had to clean it down there. Is that,
And I really didn't start using him until after the whole thing happened, because I used to use the cleaners on Nepperhan and Roberts Avenue, which was like on the other side, like it was east, east like towards the A&P where I shop. It was more convenient, and then I started using the one like after that whole thing happened. I used the one down on Warburton Avenue.
you still using that one down on Warburton?
Yes.
And then, now you said you knew Sam Carr as a result of having received an award. Was that part of the reward that was posted by the Daily News?
No, I didn't get any money. This was the one that Mayor Beam gave out for the investigative effort on behalf of the city of New York. And that's when I saw him, close up, in person.
Who else was there, as you recall, civilians?
Civilians other than Sam Carter's daughter.
Wheat Carr, right?
Right.
But was his wife there?
All I saw was Sam Carter and his daughter, and that was it. They were standing with the Yonkers detectives and the uniformed officers.
How about Caceres? Have you ever met them?
No, I don't even know what they look like.
And you weren't at the awards when they received some sort of reward from the Daily News?
No, it made me very angry. I risked my life. I was, everybody forgets that I was a victim, just as well as anybody else. Right? At least he didn't kill me, but that's a whole other story altogether. There's so much glory grabbing that New York City would look very bad if they didn't get the glory in that.
And let me ask you this, as far as the areas where the shootings occurred, had you ever been in any of those areas?
As a matter of fact, when this whole thing started, when I sat down and I thought about it, when this whole thing, the Son of Sam, developed, like in the media, television, I really didn't follow it. Up until, I think it was the 4th shooting, I think that was the one where I saw Channel 2 and Chris Borgen showed how the style that the guy used. That's when it really started, I started to follow a little more closely. But, it really been in the back of my mind, I really didn't care what was going on, because at that time, too, we were issued a composite drawing of the Son of Sam that we had in our police vehicles, that we had on the dashboard. That was really, when it
Did
started.
David match the composites?
Not the one they gave us, but I remember the night they asked me to show them, like they had composites with them the night of the arrest. They asked me to show them which one. I think it was the second one. I believe it was the second composite that looks the closest to Berkowitz or something.
Was it any of these?
I think it was this one.
Is his hair that?
No, it wasn't that outstanding. His hair was kind of kinky, but it wasn't like frizzed out like an afro.
Does he look like any of these though? that one?
I believe this is the composite we rode around with in our vehicles.
And you don't think he looks like those?
No, he didn't look like that. See, now they did that to make it look like me.
Doesn't look like him, sorry. Doesn't look much like that.
Is it?
How about that one? That look like that?
No.
The hair, would you say the hair, how would you describe David Berkowitz's hairdo? Now, if you were going to give a description, and you've been trained, you've worked in PD for some time, how would you describe David? Height, weight, color of hair, eyes, and
All right,
so
when
on?
I saw him, he was kind of chunky.
What would
He
you
had
say
to
he
be a
weighed?
good 180, 190 He had, to me, I don't know, he had a rounded, chubby face. His hair, like I was saying, it wasn't kinky. I mean, it wasn't like an afro, but it wasn't fluffed out. It was in a style. It was in like a close. Just trying to think. The impression when I first saw him was the guy looks like a doofus. A run of the mill. If you saw the guy in the street, you never looked at him. That type of guy.
How about the color of his hair?
It was dark.
Dark?
Like a black with a dark brown.
As dark as yours or darker?
Probably darker than mine.
And did he have a high forehead?
Just trying to think. From what I can recollect in my mind, it seemed like he did. That his hair was kind of up here.
Was it pushed back or
It
parted?
was kind of like a little thing over the front right here.
Was it parted, you recall?
Yes, I believe it did have a part.
Mike, anything else? Greg, anything else that you can think of that might be helpful to us?
Other than trying to think of other people that can help you out. Like I said, Frankie Restivo, the paper boy, I don't know if you talked to him, but he'd probably be able to give you an idea possibly better. Maybe he saw people in the hallway, seeing he lived across from me, he was the paper boy.
Does he still live there?
Oh yes, they still live in the same apartment there. Like I said, the one name I gave you, Sousa, S-O-U-S-A, he used to be the superintendent. But he no longer lives there. You probably have to get the name, his form, his next address from the management.
What's the paper boy's name?
Frankie Restivo. R-E-S-T-I-V-O. They live in 7G, 42 Pine Street. Because see, now, there was an article that was related in the paper where a woman stated she was coming, matter of fact, it was the big blackout, July 7th, I think it was 1977, was the big blackout we had. And matter of fact, I was at the hospital that night. And I remember I was working the evening shift. I got home by about 10:15. But there was some woman in the building who was coming up the stairway, and Berkowitz supposedly was coming up the stairway, or coming down the stairway at that time. And the woman got very frightened, and she saw it. She said, "Oh, it's only you, David." I don't know if you had heard that.
No, I hadn't heard that at all.
So it seems like that woman must have
known who he was.
known who he was.
How did you hear that story?
No, that was again through the paper. There was a story in the paper, somebody in the building had related it to me. Because it's so hard with everything that's going on with the press and things start to seem like, they come together and you forget where you heard the different things. what I'll do is I have a copy of my arrest report that you can have too.
Okay, that'd be very helpful, because we don't have that. Thank you.
Not only that, is I had written an article, I don't know if this would be helpful to you too, for a magazine with a friend of mine. You can have a copy of that also.
Okay. Westchester Illustrated?
That's the local magazine up there. That specifically is just about the night of the arrest. And if you want this, you can have them, you know. just,
Okay, thank you. Good, take it.
You know, over this, I even got hate mail, believe it or not. You have to have whole paper and stuff. Let's see if there's anything else.
All right, well, why don't we turn it off now? It's now 5 minutes to 5, and we're turning off the tape.